What's up, everybody? Let's go. How's everyone doing today? Got a lot of stuff to cover. You got a lot of things going on. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. It's crazy. A lot of stuff going on here. Talk about AMC for a second, but I don't know if you guys saw this stock today, this drug stock. But we'll talk about this for a second because it's just fucking hilarious when they do this shit. They pick a random stock, it jumps. And see what's funny is like, okay, you got like AMC stock, it drops 15 cents, and all of a sudden there's fucking 75 articles about it. Any of these, normally you see a stock, anytime a stock jumps up, there's instantly news about it. Not this one. Kind of funny. How's everyone doing today? We learned some stuff here more with AMC. We know that AMC, they don't want it to get to 566 at all. They're going to try their hardest to pin it down below that. We're going to go over a trading strategy for this because I believe at this point you are going to have low volatility, low volume. So I'm going to show you guys a trading strategy you can, look into, maybe implement over the next month or two if it's going to be, a little lower volume here. We'll see what's going on, but I will show you guys the strategy at the end here. But there's so much stuff going on here. It's just funny because it's like this crime, all this stuff, it's going to come to an end here at the end. You can see all these things breaking in the end, but at the end of the day, it's just like the amount of shit that they're getting away with is just fucking laughable. The amount of stuff that, you know, they complained about with the CAT system, with data and all these things. Oh man, your personal information is going to get out there, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you notice, you got all this stuff going on with Fidelity. So, but I just thought this was funny today. This stock, if you guys didn't see, it went up 1,400. At one point, it was up to $55. I think it went up to or something. No, about 50. Yeah, 58.78. So the stock jumped up. It was at like 1,700, 1,800% today. It jumped up. It was at what? It was like, is this a joke? It opened at 266 and jumped up to 58 bucks in the after hour market. So again, there's no news on this. You can Google drug stock news, nothing about it. If you look at this stock, the short interest on this stock is 2%. So there was no squeeze. There was nothing like, oh man, somebody got caught. No, they didn't. It was 2%. They didn't get caught. Um, but like I said, it's just funny when they need liquidity grabs, when they need this. You can clearly see it. But like I said, any other news, any other stock that jumped up, there would have been fucking 500 articles about it unless they don't want you looking at it. So they write articles about drug stock, people start asking questions. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like this is either unless this company comes out tomorrow and goes, "Hey, we came up with this new revenue stream. It's going to revolutionize, it's a pharmaceutical company, so I mean, or bioscience, so maybe they can, come up with some kind of fucking, I don't know, prosthetic arm or something. I don't know. Some kind of thing that just one of revolutionary, one of a kind." And they're gonna announce it soon. But then at that point, either way, it's insider information. But it's like this shit is just laughable to me. It's just like, yeah, okay. And then what is the SEC doing? Like, you don't look over at this stock that jumped up 2,000%. It had like two fucking halts on it the whole day. It was just a complete. Like I said, this is the shit that you look at in the market and you just go, yeah, okay, this market's not fucking broke. But let's get into some stuff here today. So we all need to one of the people I've always supported this entire time, this entire movement, has been Dave Lauer. Dave Lauer has been in the Flash Boys. Dave Lauer has been exposing the corruption, the crime in the stock market for like 15 years. People that sit there and question Dave to me still crack me up. It's like the dude's done everything. He's done more than any other person you could probably name at this point to actually try and do something. Well, his company, We the Investor, I always, pull this up, try and get support when they need support, try and get things because they do actually get in front of the SEC. He's actually now doing a lawsuit. They're actually suing the SEC now. So, like I said, hopefully, this goes somewhere. This is going to be definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to. But they are suing the SEC for not addressing an underlying, market structural problems, not addressing any of these issues. So, like I said, hopefully this is something that actually happens. Hopefully we get this, and fucking if it does start moving forward, we all need to support the shit out of this. We really do. Um, A little bit more about it. Like I said, if you want to look at We the Investor, here's his Twitter. But there's their website. Like I said, I normally don't fucking ever post stuff, but here you go. But like I said, at least these guys are trying to do change. They get in front of the SEC. They have had a couple rules that were rewritten because of them. So again, I always support people like this, people that can actually do some things, and instead of, unfortunately, us right now, we're not doing the right proper things that we need to be doing to acknowledge or address the fucking people. Like I said, this eventually here it's gonna crash. You can see it all. I mean, China, every other country's blowing the fuck up. They're continuously injecting and injecting hundreds and hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars here. So we'll get into China here in a little bit. But one of the, some things are actually going our ways. You have to celebrate some of the small things sometimes. But the overstock short sellers, what they were trying to do, because maybe this opens the door for other CEOs because they can now look at tactics like this and say, all right, before maybe we couldn't go after the shorts to cause a squeeze because we might have been, hesitant to get fined, get in trouble, get a Wells notice, whatever, because that's who they would go after. They would go after the company. But now that you had this, overstock short sellers lose appeal over market manipulation. They wanted to sue Overstock because they said that Overstock forced the squeeze by doing everything that they did with dividends, and they said that was just a tactic to squeeze them and it had no other use and blah blah blah. And for once Overstock won, for once the good guys won. Fuck them, fuck these short sellers. So this is something that actually was a pretty good thing today. This is what's funny to me. So you have all of these companies, these banks, and I've told you guys forever, this is the problem in the United States. I don't care who's a politician. It doesn't fucking matter. They don't run the country. The bankers run the country. The bankers do everything. These bankers, it's banker wars. It's all the same shit. In the end of the day, these guys were crying about the CAT system. We got to take it down. The CAT system's going to expose all of these client information. All of these people are going to get their personal information's going to get exposed. It's too risky. They're safer in their brokers. And then next thing you notice, a couple weeks later, Fidelity gets hacked and 77,000 people's information, including their social security number and everything else, was exposed. So 77,000 people had all their information given to these hackers. Oh, there you go. 77,100 clients. It had their social security number, financial information, their name, their numbers, their addresses. So all this information, these guys say, we can't go ahead and make the CAT system because they'll get this information. No, they're getting the information from you just as fucking easy. So all of your guys is, oh, we gotta stop the CAT system. We gotta do this because it doesn't protect people's information. And if you read about this, it actually talks about a lot of their system and how it's pretty faulty. So it wasn't like this was the hardest hack to pull off here, which is pathetic. You're a fucking massive broker. It should be nearly impossible to get into you. But they always do find a way, so I can't be like, oh, it's impossible. But like I said, when you read about all the things that the guy did, type of hack, it was like, okay, it wasn't this guy didn't go out and do this special fucking hack worm for these guys. Citadel Securities. Now, this is the next thing I wanted to talk about because this does involve the CAT system, and this is what I'm talking about. And this is why these guys keep fighting this shit, and then it ends up becoming a fucking joke. And it's like, this is what pisses me off because I sit there and I'll talk to you guys about the CAT system, and I'll say, this will expose everything. This will expose this, and then it does. And then when it fucking exposes them, they pay $1 million fine. So when I sit there and think this should be these massive fucking deals, because theoretically it should. Because when I talked about the CAT system, I was telling you guys how it would expose billions and billions and billions of fucking orders, and that should be the end of it. they should get fucked up, because no matter what, when they have to submit the data, there will, if there's open trades on the back end that they were trying to hide in the back end, they'll fucking come through. Eventually they'll come through, because when they do trade a share that was not reported, they have to come up with that locate somehow. Do you understand what I'm saying? So suddenly, when all these locates, hey, we had the share over here that we traded. Well, according to the books over here, you only had this many shares. And when all this shit starts coming out, eventually, what do you know? But when you look over here, Citadel Securities paid a whole $1 million fine. It says, biggest fucking joke in the world. We should be storming down the fucking SEC. We should be fucking people up at this point. I don't give a fuck. This is ridiculous. When you come down here and read this, they had accounting errors for 42 billion orders for equity and option orders, not shares, orders. Think about this. How many times do you put an order in for one fucking share? How many times do you put an order in for one share? You don't. So these 42.2 billion orders and then these options that are rights to 100 fucking shares are all mismarked. How many total shares is this? 500 billion, 600 billion? You guys saw with the 605 report, how many of these are AMC shares, how many, you see what I'm saying? As a result, remaining, and it talks about all these, this talks about 3 different types of errors that it did, but then it comes down and says that there was actually 30 different reporting errors. 30 fucking reporting errors. They reported over 400 million inaccurate orders between January 22nd of 2020 and January 22nd of 2022. So they had 30 different reporting errors for over 400 million inaccurate orders. And then it keeps going down and down and down. Like I said, it ends up being 42 billion inaccurate orders between 1 and 17 months after each reporting issue was corrected. So they continuously say they're correcting shit, and then a new error suddenly pops up and a new this. But this is the problem, and this is what I told you. You can't get away from the CAT system. It doesn't matter what you fucking do with this shit. But the problem is if they can't get away with it, and you're going to give them a $1 million fine, who cares? Who fucking cares if they can't get away with it? This is my problem here. Like the CAT system, I told you, this is going to be your answer right now for the SEC. Will a regulator ever come in and help? I told you the CAT system will be the tool for these guys. And it's all about, will they use it? Because they have every single thing at the tip of their finger now, you guys. I was like, they're going to have to start going after these big firms. They're going to have no choice. I told you they would have to start, you'd have to start seeing Citadel. This was like one of the first times Citadel's been charged since Gary's taken over. The CAT system's not going to allow these pieces of shit to hide this crap. But the problem is if you catch them and you do $1 million fine, this is like giving them a penny. Who fucking cares? You gave them a penny? Exactly. Bribes are fines. Bribes are costs of doing business. Bribes are their cut from what they steal. Basically, they allow people to steal a certain amount of money. Then the regulators say, hey, we're doing something. They take their bribe. They take their little cut. They give barely anything back to the people. They give like 35% of the recovered funds to the people. And then they apparently give it to the treasury. So basically, they win. The government profits when these guys steal from you and they get fines. That's how fucked up this is. The government profits when the SEC fines these guys for doing criminal acts. But like I said, this is the biggest slap in the face to any United States citizen right here in the entire world. You had 42 billion fucked up orders. 42.2 billion fucked up orders. And you paid a $1 million fine. 33 different types of errors. 33 different types of errors. Like I said, you can read, this goes into 3 different types of errors. But then it talks about, well, there was also 33 other different types of errors. There's other 30 errors on these ones. So these 400 million had 30 errors. All of these ones submitted through this time period had 33 fucking types of errors. Reported long is short, closing dates, expiration, prices, everything. Reported fucked up information. 33 different types of errors. Over 3.2 billion equity orders. Had 33 fucking error types. How does Citadel control the price? How do these guys get away with it? Well, when they can sit there and fucking mismark shit and do whatever they want with it, and they pay $1 million fine. What do you like I said? This is unreal, dude. So now when I tell you something, I'm just gonna say, all right, this should do this, but it's gonna do this. I'm just gonna tell you, technically this should do this, but in our government, no. Like I said, the CAT system's gonna keep catching them. But if the SEC is gonna impose $1 million fines, they're fucking worthless. They're more worthless than ever, because now they have no excuse, and that was the problem. The second the CAT system, I told you, the second this CAT system came on, they would have to start going after these big guys because they have no more excuses. They have no excuses. It costs them nothing to sit down at a fucking computer and pull up Citadel's account. It costs them nothing to watch their trades live. It costs them nothing because that guy's fucking already getting paid by the hour sitting at that chair anyways. He doesn't need to leave the office. He doesn't need to do fucking anything. He can just log into the CAT system, watch their things, and watch the flags. Because I already told you in the CAT system there's a flag column. So he can, any day they want, they can sit down, pull up Citadel, look at them for 35 minutes, and pull up as many trades that were flagged as they want and say, hey, they did this today. We can charge them for this. They could do this every single day until Citadel did something. But they won't. But they have the technology now. They have the ability to. Now, this is even more of a fucking joke. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's more of a joke, but this, like I said, it's just fucking unbelievable the amount of crime these fucking things can get away with. Like I said, banks are the biggest terrorist organization in the fucking world. TD Bank pleads guilty and pays $3 billion to settle money laundering case. Cartel, everything, fucking every scam artist, everything. Cartels, drugs, it didn't matter. It ran through city and no one cared. And they took bribes. People took. Look at this. A pair of federal charges documents laid out how, more than a decade, TD Bank employees took bribes and overlooked flagrant activities by criminal customers from Colombia and other parts of the country, other parts of the world. One example, a Queens man who had earlier pleaded guilty to several crimes provided bank workers with more than 57,000 in gift cards. In return, he laundered a total of one guy did. One guy. This is one guy. One guy in return laundered $470 million. One fucking guy laundered $500 million. How many billions did they launder through this company or this fucking bank? If one guy got $500 million, last year, hold on, I'll keep going up, but I wanted to see if I could see a total. But look at these billions and billions. But like I said, these guys were working with fucking cartel. It didn't matter. And this is what I'm saying. These everybody want all these fucking drug craft mafias, these terrorists, this that. Yeah, they all are awful pieces of shit human beings, and they're all funneled by the same fucking people, the banks, the same 4 banks: J.P. Morgan, Citi, Bank of America. Who the fuck am I missing? Little Morgan Stanley. It's the same fucking people. It's always the same people. And now TD joins the group. It's always the same fucking actors, and they're always working with Jeffrey Epstein's Island. Guess who funded Jeffrey Epstein's Island? J.P. Morgan. Guess who funded Diddy's? J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan Chase funded Diddy's everything. J.P. Morgan Chase funded Jeffrey Epstein's everything, and no one gives a shit. At some point, J.P. Morgan is more guilty, and you know what's funny is this. It's not funny. It's fucked up. It's disgusting. The second Jeffrey Epstein got caught and killed himself, you know what? I was like, you know what, dude? In the end of the day, Jeffrey Epstein couldn't have done what he did without J.P. Morgan Chase. Who's to say those bad actors don't have other Jeffrey Epsteins out there? And guess what? Diddy gets uncovered. And guess who's backing him? The same fucking cocksuckers at J.P. Morgan Chase. Same ones. Guess what? They're all going to the Diddy parties. The executives, they're all going to the island. There was 13 executives at J.P. Morgan that frequently visited the islands, and it was evidence. You can pull it up right now on Google. It is right in front of you. Type in 13 executives, J.P. Morgan, Jeffrey Epstein Island. It will pull up every fucking one of their names, and you will see thousands of people document. It is well known. There's a guy named Leon Black who was helping them, funding them. They were talking about like, I can't remember what the hell the word was. It was like heavy snacks and all this gross shit. You knew it was fucking what they were talking about after, but it's like you can take away these guys, but J.P. Morgan's just gonna keep making more of them. It's fucking insanity. The amount of human trafficking, the amount of fucking drugs, the amount of bad shit in the world, the amount of bribed politicians, the amount of felonies that would go away in the world, the amount of corruption, the amount of billions of people that have been stolen from, retirements that have been lost, the amount of just bad things in the world that would go away without these banks is unreal. Like I said, there's no bigger terrorist organization in the world than these fucking top 5 banks. Speaking of that, Elizabeth Warren says Citibank has become too big to manage and should be considered to be broken up. So now you have Warren talking about banks these guys are too fucking huge. They're too exposed. They're too big of a problem for anyone to fucking worry about or contain. If this shit goes awry, it's over. Well, guess what, bitch? Check out J.P. Morgan Chase, you fucking idiot. Check out Bank of America, you fucking clown. And this is the problem. Congratulations, you finally figured out one of the 5 banks are a problem. MC, thank you very much. Appreciate that every time, my friend. But it's like, congratulations, you guys are slowly catching up to the world. The banks are the evilest thing in the entire fucking problem. It doesn't matter what politicians are there until a president, until Congress comes in and says, we're going to stop the feds and we're going to cap these banks. We're going to put iron fists on these fucking banks and we're going to fix this back end. We're going to fix government spending. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. Because it's gonna keep continuously getting fucking worse and worse and worse, and they can't stop it. Now, this guy runs a fund, and they look for black swan events, and that's amazing. Basically, what he specializes in, he profits in. One of the things he's talked about, and it starts to make sense when you look at the big picture. Think about it. What is one? I've always told you there was going to be a crash, and there is going to be a massive one. But what do they need to have happen in order for a massive crash to be there? They need retail to buy stocks. They need retail to get heavily into the market because they need somebody to hold their bags. They need somebody to take the losses. They need liquidity to take out of the fucking market. So why everything's riding at an all-time high? Watch this. So first of all, he talks about record highs everywhere. We're having, record highs in every single market. These are always signs to look for when it's just never, ever, ever stops. And he talks about disinflation and rates. And usually when you talk about dropping rates, like I said, well, they're dropping rates. But the problem is the entire economy's condition is getting fucking worse in every single aspect. Rates are actually going up. So why rates are going down, it actually hurts the consumer, because what it's doing is it's dropping the rates inside of your deposit account, and then it's making the rate, because of the fucking 10 years going up, its rates are actually going up on the houses. So they're paying you less interest and they're charging you more for loans, and they're tightening lending. Now, one of the things that we find out, which we'll get into here in a second, is we find out that the Federal Reserve was paying these banks. They gave the banks $1 trillion fucking dollars. They paid them $1 trillion. They were supposed to pass that down to us through loans. They were supposed to take that money and give out more loans. But instead, we'll get into what they did. But they ended up actually fucking us all over. The banks kept it all. The banks fucking ended up keeping a sum of $1 trillion, and it fucked us all over once again. Because these banks are pieces of shit. But we'll get into that in a second. But, like I said, a black swan event, everything is coming. Every fucking where you look, it is a bubble. It is a bubble. And when you start to drop rates, because you have to save face, and because you think the economy and the rest of the world perceives it as bad, it is not a good thing. It's never been a good thing. Look at history throughout the entire time. Every time you've had a crash after, it's because you cut rates when you shouldn't have cut rates, and the rest of the world knew you shouldn't have cut rates. Well, guess what? We shouldn't have fucking cut rates last time. In fact, you should have fucking raised them. So everything's just gotten worse, and as I showed you before over my last couple streams, since they cut rates, everything's gotten worse. Everything's gotten more expensive, and rates across the board went up everywhere other than the amount that they're paying you to have your money in their bank accounts. That's it. That's the only thing that went down so far. So one of the things I wanted to show you now, speaking of all of that and holding the bags, and they need more people before they can get a crash to jump into the stock market. One of these accounts, I mean, I can pull up his website, but I'm not going to pay for that shit. I do like this account because they do post a lot of information, and then they show the reports that they're pulling from. Sorry. Give me a second here. But now it says, breaking, U.S. households now hold 48% of their equities in their assets in equities. This is the highest since the 2000 dot-com bubble. Since the 2020 crash, this has risen by 13 percentage points. So basically, everybody's selling off everything and they're jumping into fucking equities. Now, that's great why equities are jumping up and up and up, but the more and more and more people that are betting on it, that's when the more of these fucking companies are going to say, all right, now we can fucking pull these guys, rug them out, and like I said, they love this shit. The higher, look at this, every time you've had it, a crash came. Every time you start getting up into these giant high territories, a fucking crash comes. Because somebody's going to end up holding the record, or somebody's going to end up holding the bags. And interesting, Americans' allocations to bonds and cash is now just 16% on bonds and 15% on cash, well below their long-term averages. In other words, households are all in on the stock market rally. Investors and retail are all in on the stock market rally. We're all riding the wave. We're all riding the NVIDIA wave at why these CEOs are selling and selling and selling and selling. That doesn't tell you something's happening. Like I said, they love it. Last time we hit this number, you had a crash right after. We'll see what happens. Last time we hit high numbers like this, 2008. Like I said, look at crash. Well, Never have been above the numbers you're at now. You have never had more retail invested in equities than you have right now. Their entire net worth's in it. So if the 1% ever wanted to screw the rest of the 99%, now is when they would do it. Now is when they could fucking rug pull everybody in that gap that the 99 and 1% already have, which they already own more than us. This right now, a crash, it would be a huge way for them to fucking pull out and get out and rug a lot of people. Buffett, exactly why you see Buffett is selling and selling and selling and selling. Well, Buffett's selling because banks are getting fucked up. We'll get into that actually right now. U.S. banks under pressure. J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, Citibanks are all battling shrinking profit margins. And this is what's going to happen for these banks. And this is my point. There's no out for them. I know a lot of people think that like, oh my god, they can do this forever and blah, but no, they really fucking can't. In the end of the day, they can't. Because the more you kill your middle class and lower class, the more they hurt their businesses. Now, what I mean by that is if you look over here, fuck is it? Quick, we'll jump ahead quick. The number of U.S. bankruptcy filings of big companies reaches 512 in 2024 through September. This is the second largest since 2010. This is only six total below when we had COVID. Bankruptcies are flying up on big companies because, again, if you have no consumers, guess what? You're going to fucking close down. Your economy's going to get fucked up. And this is exactly what's happening. All of these type of jobs that are good paying jobs, career type jobs, big companies, big jobs, good jobs, they're gone. And what you're seeing them get replaced by are these. The number of people working multiple jobs in the US hits 8.66 million. This is about 300,000 of the peak level before the pandemic and 600,000 above 2008 levels. But the thing that gets more interesting is, like I'm showing you, big companies, big full-time, big corporation jobs are going away, and what you're pulling up in their places, part-time jobs have jumped by 3 million. So part-time jobs have jumped by 3 million. People are now working two jobs. Full-time employment has declined by 1 million since November 2023. Why? Because of all of these fucking bankruptcies. So a lot of these big guys are feeling it too, big corporations. And it's coming back to fuck us all up. And in their places, you're getting mom and pop shops, dollar stores, the cheaper type things because nobody can afford anything. So these guys, if they keep squeezing us out, guess what? They're gonna start killing off fucking corporations too. They're gonna start, and then you're gonna lose less and less taxes, less GDP. Your government's gonna have no choice at that point but to just sit there and go after the rich and go after the rich and go after the rich because they're the only ones that will literally have anything. Now, so like I said, this is the type of shit. Let's be honest with each other. This is the type of stuff you need before you see a crash. You need, as you can see, here's your graph, here's your proof. You need high concentration of retail in equities. You need them riding the fucking wave. And you need more and more and as many as you can in that wave. And then you fucking smash it down. They've done it every time in the past. Draw Billy. We can draw a little Billy. I just got a lot of stuff to get to, but again, now you come to these banks. Well, less and less and less people have money in deposits. As you can see, more people are putting money in the stock market as well. They're taking money out of these banks. I've been showing you their deposits have been dropping and dropping and dropping. But when you come down here and read this, it actually gets very interesting. So it comes down here. JP Morgan Chase is expected to have an 8% drop that sucks, but it's nothing fucking like, whoa, yeah, good, fuck JP Morgan. I wish it was 8,000 and they went under because they're fucking the biggest criminal organization in the world. But Wells Fargo is supposed to drop 14%. Bank of America actually gets jumped up to 22%. This is yesterday. So this says 14%, but this was like 10 days ago, 5 days ago. This came out yesterday and actually jumps up to 22%. So they have Bank of America at a 22% drop. That is why Warren Buffett is getting the fuck out of Bank of America, because he sees nothing but downside for Bank of America. He sees nothing but declining profits, and he says, all right, now I can sell. I can get this out. They're doing their buybacks, trying to cancel out Warren's selling so their stock doesn't plummet down, and Warren's loving it every time they do one. So, how you doing, Edward? So again, now you have Citigroup, 20%, but this one is the big one to me. You have Goldman Sachs is expected to drop 35%. It's a fucking huge drop. So like I said, these banks are starting to feel the pain. They're not getting loans. The loans that they're giving out are getting more expensive. The credit's tightening up. So they're going to continuously lose and lose profit. On top of that, people are taking their money out. They're putting it in their broker because their broker is giving them 5%, while their bank is giving them fucking 1%. You have people moving into money market funds. There's no appeal to being a bank other than to, hey, I need X amount in my bank because I have to pay my bills each month. Other than that, why are you putting... People are waking up to the scam. There is no reason to have fucking banks. People don't have money anyways. The people that would have it obviously are working 2 part-time jobs, but they have no savings. So again, they cannot continuously do this to our economy, or they will fucking feel it just as hard as we are, as you're seeing in these bankruptcy filings on these big jobs here. Now, this is all some other things that are starting to get interesting here. Is you have the Brics system. Now, Brics settled the 65% of trades in local currencies and not in U.S. dollar. So the U.S. dollar is losing its dominance out there. The reason it's still propped up is you have so many other countries out there that are so fucked up. As you can see, you guys just heard, it was like 2 days ago, China just went ahead and injected a whole bunch of money. It was like 60 billion or something into their economy, and then now they want to inject another 650 billion more. So basically, they're just like, here, we're going to throw another $1 trillion into an already failing economy to try and prop it up. Again, the only reason the dollar is having its dominance is because all these other countries are so much more fucked up. But these countries now are getting together because what they're realizing is the only way to save their countries and their currencies, because they can't keep printing, is to either buy gold or to get demand inside of their own currencies. So one of the things that the Brics system actually did today is they had a meeting, and one of the things that they're actually doing is they wanted to get a central payment system together, and they had to vote on it today. Not many people thought that it was going to pass. Russia was involved mainly. They're one of the people that want to get this, because when they get this up, this is a way for these guys to circumvent our sanctions that our presidents put on them. They can get around it. So this is one of the reasons why they want to get this up here, but I'll let you guys listen quick. But now they have the ability now, they're going to have the system, the clearing system for these guys specifically now, to where they're not going to even use anything in the U.S. dollar here.
Financial system based mostly on the IMF, the World Bank, and Western countries. Unfortunately, due to the political interactions with those countries, today the world is considering other arrangements. Definitely within the Brics group of countries, such arrangements will be made between the member states. We have a payment system between countries based on local currencies. That was one of the topics of this meeting. China, Russia, and Iran are very interested in it. We have moved towards being able to conduct transactions with other countries in local currencies and reduce the role of the US dollar in international transactions. Russia has also made good progress. I think the Brics countries have developed well and will definitely develop in the future. The new development bank, created by Brics, can pursue many of the development goals of the Brics member countries. because today the World Bank operates within the framework of the goals of the United States and Western countries. We hope that NDB will play this role for the Brics member countries, and we want to become a member of NDB.
I wasn't talking there, my friend. But as you guys can hear, they now have a new system that they're trying to get into place. They came to an agreement. They all mutually agreed on this now. It's going to have all of these guys basically deposit a giant amount of their own currency into this central clearing system. It's going to be all of these BRIC members. They're going to have 100% currency exchange for these guys, and it's not going. They won't use U.S. dollars. Period. So the 65% they want to by next year make it 100%. So next year they want the system up to where they literally will no longer need the US dollar. And it's like that's not good. Like I said, this is another reason why they did this is talked about is it's ways to get around settling without sanctions. So there's a lot of things going on right now that the United States, like I said, everybody sees weakness. They see blood in the water. Sharks are fucking swimming. Now, one of the things I want to talk about here, well, we went over this. I'm sorry, I was wrong. It was not 650 billion. China wants to put another 850 billion in new debt over 3 years. So basically, they just want to keep dumping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions. So basically, they're just going to put $1 trillion into their economy over 3 years. What could go wrong by keep printing and printing and printing? Like, why are these guys such pieces of shit? So I was going to break this down. I was going to read this thing here because it talks about, how the feds give these, basically the banks made 1 trillion from the Federal Reserve's 2.5-year era of high interest rates. Okay, so they got these giant fucking interest rates. There was all these arbitrage plays, and they had the Fed overnight fucking repo systems like we talked about where they're getting 5.5%. Basically what was going on is the Feds here, I'll read this from her because Judy's very smart. I read her a lot. She's very smart. This is a very if I don't recommend a lot of pages to follow, but I do definitely recommend her. She's insanely intelligent here. But like she says, like I went over earlier, it's the fact that the scandal's not that, the banks did not pass on the high interest rates to their depositors. So basically, they should have been giving you guys 3, 4, 5% this whole fucking time. The government gave them grants so they could be able to give you 3, 4, 5%, but they didn't do that. So in other words, what they did is they took that money, so they were able to, for the high interest rates, for they're getting from the feds, they let that sit idle in cash accounts, and then they made money off that. The feds were paying them interest because they were letting that sit idle in a cash account. They took that cash, they set it overnight to the feds themselves. The feds took it, gave them that 5.5%. Basically, the feds were printing to give to the banks, to give to the feds, to park at the overnight reverse repo facility. So then the feds could go into the overnight index funds, into the overnight swap indexes, into ISDA. Then they could go profit. Then they would take their small amount of profits, and then they would pay back all these fucking banks. And it was an endless cycle of the feds printing, giving it to the banks giving it back to the feds on the overnight reverse repos, which why it went up to the fucking trillions of dollars. And all of that instead was supposed to be passed down to us. They did it, we got to give you all this grant so you guys can go ahead and keep giving loans. And instead of doing that, what they did is, as you guys can see, they didn't pass that on to us through loans. Instead of giving us loans, instead of taking that money and having it backed in a different account, so they could keep giving out loans and having it back just in case, so there wasn't risk attached to those loans. Basically, the government walked up to the banks and were like, hey, I know that it's risky for you to give out loans, so we're going to give you X amount of money, okay? We're going to give you X amount of money, and you can deposit that money in an account. That will now back all of your loans that you're giving out, so it takes away risk, which means you're now more likely to lend out to the citizens who need those loans. So we can keep the economy stimulated, and you can keep giving out loans even through difficult times. That is why we're giving you this money. So now what happens is the Federal Reserve printed these fucking cocksuckers giant checks. They took that money. Instead of doing that, they fucking put it in an account. They took that in a cash account. They went and put it in a fucking cash account. Then they took that cash account and they gave it right back to the feds, who then paid them 5.5% fucking interest on those coupons on the overnight index funds on how much money they were parking. So the feds were then printing money, making money off that money in the back end, and then paying the fucking bankers to lend them the money that they just printed to the fucking banks. Do you understand how fucked up that is? So basically, the feds were printing themselves fucking money and paying the banks to give it back to them for like 2 seconds. Here, just give it back to me for one day. So, I'm just going to read this in full. The scandal is not that banks just did not pass on to the depositors the high interest rates they were getting from the feds to let money sit idle in cash accounts. It's that the Fed was paying them to keep that money from being loaned to the real economy because they were paying them through the 5.5% of the reverse repo to park it there. The Fed created the liquidity to bail out government deficit spending, then paid banks not to lend that money that they were receiving from selling treasury debt to the feds. See? This is the source of the windfall profits to banks, and it came out of out of future remnants to the treasuries. And on top of that, you have the fucking feds themselves already owing the treasury $200 billion. So basically, they've just taken out like $600 fucking billion out of the treasury. And they're just like, nah, we'll pay you back when we can. In other words, it says taxpayers' money. Since March 2022, the Fed has paid the banks $500 billion to prevent financial resources from supporting private sector economic activity. Congress should get involved, as the Constitution gives them the authority to regulate money. Congress should get involved as it gives them the authority to regulate money, which they outsource to the Federal Reserve as an independent agency. So in other words, Congress can fucking take it back anytime. It's time to have a hearing on this matter and bring the situation to light. The Fed's practice of paying interest on the reserve balance of commercial banks. And like I said, this ended up equaling $1 trillion that went to the feds that should have went to us through loans to stimulate the economy. Now remember when the housing market shut down. You remember why the supply chains shut down. Because nobody was buying houses because nobody could get loans. This was going to fix that. This was supposed to fix the housing market crisis. And instead of them taking the money and fixing the housing market crisis, they let the housing market die. They took that money, and instead of passing it on to us through loans so everybody could stay afloat, they said everybody can go get fucked, and we're going to keep giving it back to the Fed so we can make interest on the money they just gave us. And then we can go ahead and say we're making massive profits this quarter, and then we can go ahead and give ourselves fat bonuses. The Federal Reserve is a fucking scam. The Federal Reserve is a terrorist organization that prints money at the expense of all of us to bail out criminal banks that support sex, crimes, cartel, and drug trafficking. And then they punish you for doing what the banks allow. And then the banks have over 7,000 total felony crimes. They have paid over $400 billion, and they're all still operating, and no one cares. Meanwhile, the national debt is up to $35 trillion, up over $700 billion. We're on pace within the next month and a half to hit $36 trillion. $36 trillion in debt. Now, one of the things people are forgetting about is all of these banks took a fucking 1 year loan out. Well, guess what? It's going to be time to pay those loans back, bitches. Feds. The Feds Daily. Daily works over at the Feds there. He says bank runs can happen at an accelerated pace now. He's the Feds are even saying in the next month here, when fucking commercial real estate goes down, when the housing market fucking crashes, when the stock market fucking crashes, people are gonna run. People are gonna get out of these banks. These banks aren't gonna be able to pay these loans back, and that you guys, there was gonna be a massive banking crisis that was gonna happen last year, and they made the Fed lending program for 1 year so they could delay it. That delay is up. It's over. All those fucking banks that should have crashed, they're gonna start to crash. That's what I've been telling you guys with this commercial real estate. Wait till this commercial real estate bomb starts to go off because it's to the sum of $929 billion. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with that. On top of that, you now find out that basically customers not being able to pay minimum debt for the fourth consecutive month now rose to 14.2. So basically, debt delinquencies are on the rise. This is now the highest level since COVID. So now people, all of us, are bankrupt, and now you are seeing the economy suffer. You're seeing bankruptcies. You're seeing people not, full-time jobs, good jobs go away. You're seeing people work part-time jobs. You're seeing people work more two jobs now more than ever in the history of the United States. Meanwhile, you have all of these people that are going credit delinquencies, and guess what? The bank exposure to credit delinquencies is at an all-time high. So why people are defaulting on those? It is now at an all-time high, that amount of these delinquencies for these loans that these banks have lent out. So their risk is getting greater, and more people are now starting to default. On top of that, like I showed you guys, records for people working two jobs. And on top of that, you now have the second by the end of the year, you will have the most bankruptcies in the United States for big companies since 2010. You will have, by next month, not even, before next month happens, you will have more bankruptcies in 2024 than you had during COVID. You will have more bankruptcies by big full-time corporations with great paying jobs than you had when COVID fucking hit. Nothing to see here, no big deal. Meanwhile, those giant fucking corporations, those mega corporations that have a hold on everything, guess what? They have an all-time high stock buybacks in 2024. So basically, you have tons of big corporations going down, and then you have the mega rich ultra 1% buying stocks back, and banks like Bank of America and they're buying stocks back at the fastest pace ever, and that is why their shit's going up, because the people that are stealing are doing stock buybacks. So when the time they get caught, all their stocks are still fucking valued at blah blah blah, and they can still sell it, and they're fucking rich. Like I said, the amount of crime that goes on in the United States in a day is unreal. Unfucking real. Now, like I said, those banks, they got $1 trillion and it was supposed to go to us into loans. And what that was supposed to do is stimulate the housing market. Well, look at this. Just 2.5%, I'm going to say that one more time. 2.5% of U.S. homes changed hands this year. The lowest rate in 30 years. I'm going to say that one more time. 2.5% of U.S. homes changed hands this year. It's the lowest in 30 years. Nobody is selling a house. They have literally killed the housing market. That $1 trillion the feds gave them to back loans so that this wouldn't happen actually went into making both of them richer. And now you have a completely fucking dead housing market. And on top of that, like I told you guys a couple weeks ago, according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, 60% of the 50.8 million active mortgages have rates below 4%. 60% of total active mortgages, which means basically 60% of the available possible market is out of the market right now. You now have 40% of the market potential, which means housing prices are going to continue to rise because there's not, and that's just potentially selling. How much of that 40% is actually selling? How many of that 40%, like I said, your supply's not coming. They've literally they took the aid that was supposed to go into the housing market loans and they killed it instead. Let it fucking dry to 2.5% of homes changed. Lowest in 30 fucking years. Now, if you look over here, so this is when they announced the rate change, okay? So they announced the rate change and it actually went from 6.26. They announced rate changes and it went all the way up. They lowered rates and the actual mortgage rate jumped to right now we're at 6.62%. So they lowered rates and we jumped from 6.2 up to 6.66 because the 10-year is continuously rising. And they don't give a fuck. No one gives a shit. Mortgage rates don't give a fuck what the feds do. They don't care what they do. They don't care if they lower rates. As long as the 10-year keeps going up, it doesn't matter. The 10-year controls the mortgage rates, the auto rates, it controls everything. So as long as this 10-year keeps going up, which when they lower rates as a sign of weakness, the 10-year will keep going up, which means your housing market rates will continuously rise. 60% of the market is already off of it. 40% of it might not even be selling. Of that 40%, you need this number to drop back down at least down to 6.1%. So you need you still need another 75%, and that's just this to drop, and that means your 10-year needs to drop and not the Fed coming and going, we're going to drop 75. That's not going to fix it. That will probably raise this percentage up to 7. So again, there is cracks that they can't fix, and the 10-year is what it is. There is cracks they can't fix because in reality you need middle class, because if you have no middle class, you have no companies. You have big giant companies dying off at a faster pace than COVID. That's not good. You have people resorting to part-time jobs and two of them just to make what they should have been making at these type of corporations. 512 mega corporations is how many millions of jobs. Now you see why this suddenly jumped 3 million, because now what you're having is millions of these jobs go away and they have no choice but, oh man, like I said, now you have people working two part-time jobs. No one's selling houses, which means your supply is going to stay there, which means you've now literally stagnated your housing market. You have stagnated your housing market through greed. You have $929 billion coming due in the next month and a half for commercial real estate. You have auto loans now as well. Whoop. I didn't grab the. You have auto loans at an all-time high on defaults now as well. So car loans are now going at an all-time high on defaults as well. So these banks, once again, as you're seeing, are taking hits. These banks, once again, as you're seeing now, profits margins are shrinking like crazy because, again, if they don't have bloodline in retail through their depositors, they're not going to make profits. On top of that, gold is steady as hell, sitting right around 2,700 and finding support, holding support, gaining support, and continuously going up. Demand will still be there. Gold will continuously be a safe asset. Like I said, if you guys would have done this 3 years ago when I said to jump into gold, we started out at 1777. We're now up almost $1,100. Now, one of the things I wanted to show everybody, because this is actually pretty badass. A small town here. Listen.
Smith was even brought in to change the locks on the ousted officials' former offices late night. They were voted out because they supported a controversial battery plant linked to the Chinese government. It is the latest dramatic chapter in a story News Nation's been covering for the last year. And News Nation's senior national correspondent Brian Enton joins us now from Michigan. You were here last night and said that they were going to change the locks if they managed to kick them all out, and they did.
Yeah, they changed the locks, Elizabeth. I think this is almost something Americans all over the country sort of fantasize about, booting out their local government if they don't like them and they're not getting the job done. Well, that's what happened here in Green Charter Township. We're in the town hall. It's very strange because the government is just gone. They all packed up yesterday. This was the supervisor's office. He took his desk, took a bunch of other stuff. It's empty now.
And guess what? Their town and everything's thriving and doing just fucking fine with literally no government. Like I said, government, there's too much government everywhere. And in reality, none of it's needed. None of it's fucking needed. We, we all, like I said, I've been saying this forever. We gotta come together. We gotta fucking come together. We're way more powerful than you guys ever think. We gotta stop fucking fighting over the stupidest fucking things. The stupidest this. Politicians. You guys have gotta stop hating the other side. I don't care if you're red. I don't care if you're fucking blue. I don't care if you think this guy's gonna save you. He's not. I don't care if you think Kamala Harris is going to save you. She's not. I don't care if you think Trump's going to save you. He's not. You want to know what he's not going to do? He's not going to fix the Federal Reserve. He's not going to fix the banking issue. He's not going to fix the federal debt continuously rising. He's not going to fix the inflation problem. That is what you're going to feel. They can sit there and bitch and whine and moan about immigration and this and that and this and that. But in reality, those issues that they get you so fucking gung ho on don't matter in the scope of reality, because if you clean up all of this banking corruption and all that other shit, how much crime and other things and how many jobs are opening, how much better your economy is. Think about this. How many jobs, how many companies would be out there right now if there's no such thing as all of these guys coming in there and picking and choosing through short and distort techniques who survives and who doesn't? You'd have all of these banking cartel being able to literally strip patents, everything that could ever challenge them. They have monopolies because they can control anything. Think of how many laws you don't even know that are passed that could affect your life daily because these banks have lobbyists. I showed you the endgame rule. They have more power, they have more control than anything. No matter what, at the end of the day, Congress, lobbyists, President Trump, President Harris, whoever, they will have to answer to other people. And those other people will all be bought and paid for by the same fucking pieces of shit. And they will control them, and they will not let them get things that they want to get done. In the end of the day, we have to fix all of this fucking other corruption, make other people aware. The banks have got to fucking go. Thomas Jefferson literally said this. Listen to this. If you have never heard a more truer quote in your entire life, if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, which you're seeing and have seen forever, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Like I said, this is exactly what's fucking happening. BlackRock is buying up every property. They're all buying up all the houses, homes. They've killed the housing market. The corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent that their fathers conquered. The banks and corporations have taken this fucking country. Now, one of the things I want to show people, it's a strategy you can implement. God damn it, I knew I was going to run late. I got to go here. My wife has this thing in the morning. It's like 6 in the morning here. I gotta go watch Little Man. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you guys a strategy. I'm just gonna kind of talk about it for a couple minutes here. I'm not gonna go super into it this time. We'll go into it first next video. It'll be the first thing I do, and then I'll bring in my second strategy next video. The first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of my next video, I'm gonna cover this strategy, and I'm going to cover my next strategy. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to start showing you guys some option strategies. Now, for me, the way I'm looking at it is the next month or two, AMC, I don't see high volatility. I see AMC doing a lot of barcoding. This is a type of play you can do in options. Now, like I said, guys, I'm just giving you strategies. Don't go fucking do this now just because I got this. It is something to look into. If you like the strategy, here's one. I'm going to show you guys 7 types of strategies you can implement in your trading daily activities. The Iron Condor strategy, if you look for certain types of stocks, this is a very successful strategy if you know and are paying attention. Looking at, like I said, make sure you do your TA, make sure you look at volatility spikes, look at everything, research. But if you think AMC is going to be barcoding, this is a type of strategy that you can do for a month to collect premium, to buy more shares, to average it down. Like I said, I'm just going to teach you guys strategies. You guys decide for yourself. Hey, there's 7 strategies. What one do I want to try? Like I said, just because I teach you this, read about the strategy. Don't just say, all right, well, he says to do these and that's it. Read about this after this. Please don't just do something because I showed you something. Don't want to get all these people crying because suddenly they decided to do this. Like I said, I'm going to give you 6 other options to start to try to over the next week or 2 here. So don't just go fucking crazy on the first one. All right. Sorry, I have to get that out of the way because people like to blame people for their choices. Now, this is called the Iron Condor. Now, this is an option trading strategy. Now, this involves 2 puts and this involves 2 call options, okay? Now, you're going to get you're going to get all around the same strike price here, okay? What you want is 2 longs and 2 2 longs and 2 short calls. I'm sorry, I'm doing this all wrong. My mind's going over at my wife right now. I hear him crying. So here, I know she's gonna get crazy. My mind's not on this right now. I'm gonna go over this first next time. Here, Google this, read this. This is going to be an option strategy with puts and calls. You're going to have 4 of them. What you want to do is you don't want high volatility. You want to get the price strikes in between, okay? So the way you make money is basically the stock moves by like 10 cents up and down, and you do your price strikes in between 25, 35 cents here, and you want it to just keep going in between that price strike. It's to do low volatility trading, low movement, low price action. If you think there's going to be barcoding, this is a type of play that you can do. You would get one for like a week out, and you would get a call for like a week out, and you would get a call for a month out. You would get a put for a week out, you would get a put for a month out. Okay, and now you're going to pick your strike price in between, and you, like I said, you want it to land in between those prices. I'm going to get way more into this, but I do have to go. Like I said, I hear him crying. I don't want her going crazy. She's got to get up here and be at that place at 6. So I will be on in a couple days here. And like I said, I'll go over the strategy, the next strategy. I'm going to break out my whiteboard so I can actually get in depth with it. Because obviously I know a lot of people are listening to this and like, what the fuck is he talking about? I'm going to break it down with whiteboards, and we're going to get super into this. But here I'm going to post this on Investopedia. Like I said, guys, Google Google Iron Condor trading strategy. It's for low volatility. I don't see AMC getting super massive volatility, low price action, barcoding. I could see that happening for AMC here for about a month. They don't want it to jump over 566 because that will trigger the 414 million conversion, and AMC's debt will go down to 3.6 billion, which will be basically the same. I'm coming. It'll be the same as Cinemark. So again, guys, I'll go over the strategy here, but I do want to show you guys the strategy once again. Sorry about this. I will be on as soon as I can. Thank you guys for listening. Have